Please welcome Dr. Samantha Nutt.
Thank you, Stu. How are you?
Oh, I'm really good. How are you?
I'm okay. I think we're doing an In Conversation With now, aren't we?
We are doing it. And you should be on the screen here. You'll see in 1 second. There we are. Oh, here we are. This is fantastic.
There we go. I see myself in duplicate, but I can't see you. You're like a voice in my head,
How
which
about
I
that?
think is probably true. There you are.
Here I am.
Hi, everyone.
How are you doing?
Well, you know, just like everyone else, just tired of this whole situation and hoping that we will be free again soon. But I mean, I feel like the summer is going to be we're going to be in a lot better place. So I'm looking forward to that. How about you?
You know, I'm in a similar place. It's the $1 million question, right? How are you doing this year? For the million dollar question, how are you doing? And you try and put a positive spin on things, as leaders do often. But it has been a tough year. I think we can all admit it's been a tough year. And I kind of that's one of the things I wanted to kind of start with asking you about, because you work in, you know, these incredibly dangerous, at times, challenging spots around the world with War Child. You've been there, you've visited it. I know, you know, when you spoke at our global event 3 years ago now, if you can believe it, you know,
Wow.
and at our OSLC event, I think that was, I don't want to say, I think it was 18 years ago when you spoke at our Ontario event in Niagara Falls.
We're 100 years old now, Stu.
We're
You realize
100 years old. We are so old.
Now all the youth who are watching are like, who are these old people?
Yeah, but you don't look old. I look old. I look like Gandalf with my gray beard. So, you know, you played a piece, I remember, in your program. It was audio of you in the Congo, and it was absolutely, it was stirring. It was incredible. And I got thinking about this when I was going to talk to you, because we've had so many young people during COVID, you know, have so many different things thrown at them. And I'm wondering, like, what your advice is, but not only someone who's worked in these countries that are, you know, child soldiers. I mean, we have Michel Chikwanine, who's going to be on with us tomorrow, and he was a child soldier. And his story is so incredible. But you compare that, I don't know if you compare is the right word, but like contrast that with what we've been going through in young people in Canada and in North America and around the world during COVID. Like, how are they dealing with it? How can you deal with it? How do we go through this together?
It's been hard. Look, it's been hard for everyone, and it's good that you mentioned the Congos too, because that's a really good example of where, as an organization, we were able to take some leadership and change direction a little bit in terms of our programming to be able to respond not only to the conflict there, but also to the changing circumstances as a result of COVID. So we've been programming in the Congo for many years. I mean, obviously, you even mentioned a clip that we used 18 years ago, but we were doing a lot of distance-based learning already in areas where kids were affected by conflict and were unable to get to school. So there are many kids throughout the world, millions of children throughout the world, who were already being left behind because of war and displacement and because they didn't have safe places to go to school. And girls especially were being held back because the journey to get to school was very dangerous and the risk of sexual violence was very high. And so we pioneered this radio-based distance learning program where kids could come together in their local communities with teaching assistants and learn at the appropriate grade level and take their exams, and the results were really impressive. And then as a result of COVID, with the lockdown in the Congo, we were able to expand that effort and generate some support for it, and we'll be reaching about 500,000 kids this year. So that there's an example of, you know, in a war zone where you already had difficulty as a young person getting to school, accessing your education, being left behind, the mental trauma and the mental anguish of living through conflict and displacement, and in many cases as well, poverty and sexual and gender-based violence. And then the pandemic hit, and you were further isolated and further marginalized, and you know, and your opportunities just the limited opportunities that you had were really threatened and disappeared. And so it takes a lot, and it's going to take, I think, a lot from all of us going forward to make sure that the most vulnerable are not being left further and further behind. There are more than 500 million kids throughout the world who haven't even been able to access any kind of online schooling or distance-based learning. A lot of them are kids who are living with poverty or living with war. And, you know, and now it's been over a year, and if you look at the vaccine rollout, some of those kids aren't going to have access to, their communities won't have access to vaccination for another year, if not more. So, you know, we're experiencing a lot here. We're going through a lot, but some of the kids, many of the kids that we're dealing with throughout the world are dealing with that much more, and it's important to remember that. Sorry, that was a long answer.
No, because I was thinking you said that, and I was thinking about we're talking in Canada about we're complaining a lot about how the slow vaccine rollout is in Canada, and we've got 50% or more now with a 1 dose at least. What is the percentage of kids in places like the Congo, or people just in general in the Congo? What is that? Do you know like the numbers in that? Like what are they dealing with? We think 50% is bad, horrible, awful. What are they dealing with?
Oh, they're dealing with almost negligible amounts of vaccination coverage rates. I mean, you're talking about, look, more than 87% of the world's vaccine supply has gone to a limit very, very wealthy countries, Canada among them. Africa in general, right across the continent, is at less than 5%, even for a single vaccination dose. And of course, kids in those environments are considered to be lower priority because the risk of complications from COVID are lower. So even that very small number has gone to, people who would be considered especially vulnerable. But look, I mean, even storing the vaccines and getting them to people who need them, the distribution pathways, that's really complicated, especially if you're talking about unstable environments where there's limited electricity supply, where they're, even getting the vaccines to a location, they risk being, diverted for other purposes and that kind of thing. So in places where we're operating, there are no vaccines flowing, and we don't see that, at least on the horizon in the near future at any point. Probably towards the end of 2022, 2023 at the current rates, which is just tragic. And it's going to not only cost human lives, but it's going to keep us all, I think, locked in this space of uncertainty for a lot longer than we should be.
I recently listened to an interview, and I apologize, I can't remember who it was, but they were saying one of the things that wealthier countries like the U.S., who now has apparently an 80 million doses of surplus vaccine, apparently they're going to give it away, which is wonderful, to needed places. But the problem is that we don't realize that if we don't get everyone vaccinated, it hurts us as well. And we're very focused on our own self. We don't think that without getting others vaccinated, we don't change anything. How do we change that thinking?
Well, and you're absolutely right on that. And my background is I'm actually a public health doctor. That was my specialization training and specialty training. And we're seeing this with India too. When you have a huge outbreak because you have very low vaccination coverage rates, you're more vulnerable to the variants that come up, and then maybe our vaccines will not be as effective against those variants. So if we want to get ahead of this, we really do need to make sure we have a quick and equitable distribution of vaccines. And so that's where things like, and some folks may be following this debate, but around loosening the patent around manufacturing of the vaccines so we can make more of them much more locally and get them out to those populations much faster, not drawing down the vaccine supply from COVAX, which is the big program that's meant to go to countries that are experiencing, having difficulty accessing them. So there are things that we can do: fundraising, giving financial support for organizations that are involved in vaccine distribution and vaccination programs, particularly in low-income countries. I mean, all of these are ways in which we can help, and not sitting or hoarding our vaccine supply. Especially the United States. If you're not using it, get it into arms as fast as you can, wherever you can, whenever you can, and that should be the operating assumption globally.
I actually had a question. This is a bit of a side note because you mentioned it. Get it in the arms as fast as you can. Someone said, "Can you ask Dr. Samantha Nutt, because she's a doctor and she knows things? Can you let her know or ask her the question that the vaccine is safe and everyone should get it?" This is just a side note, right? Like, as a doctor yourself, you're saying to anybody who asks you, what? About the vaccine itself.
The vaccine is safe, and everyone should get it. Everyone should get the vaccine who's, obviously eligible to the extent that it's been studied. So right now we know it's anybody 12 and up, and absolutely it will keep you safe, and it will protect you and your family and your community. And this is how we get out of it. Now, some people might have legitimate health reasons for not getting the vaccine, such as if you've had a severe allergic reaction to a vaccine in the past. But otherwise, honestly, it is safe. It is good for you to use, and this is how we get back into life as we know it. And it's so important right now.
So that was my medical question for you. Now here's my next question. So one of the things I love about you, Sam, and there's a lot of things, I have a huge checklist of things I love about you. One of the things I love, I would say that you...
It's mutual, Stu. It's mutual.
Thank you. And is that you, I always say, I love people who walk their talk. You know, it's one thing to stand on a stage and say, do this, do this, do this, and walk off the stage and go, well, that was a good message. I'm going to go and not do any of that. And I think one of the things I love about you and what you do with War Child is you've never been about, I'm going to allude to this, but you've never been about standing in a room of 20,000 people with a rock star and trying to create a pep rally. What you have been about is being on the ground, you yourself on the ground in these sometimes very dangerous situations, fighting for young people around the world. And I think to myself, you know, we recently had a loss of a certain organization that was living their brand that way. How do you, as War Child, I'm looking at you right now, like you're not at the ACC, you're not with a $40,000 stage, and you don't have the Jonas Brothers around you singing. It might be fun if they were, but they're not. You're sitting in your home, I imagine, you've got a War Child poster behind you on your, it's so authentic. You're so authentic. How does War Child keep doing this? Like, how do you keep functioning as an organization to get out in the world? You can't travel, you can't do things you normally would do, you can't hold large fundraising events, not even that's your thing, but how do you go about keeping War Child active and relevant and impactful and making a difference?
And that's a very thoughtful question. And look, I mean, it's always hard. I think it's hard for any charitable organization in this country. It's hard for any nonprofit. I know, Stu, I know it's even been hard for your group as well. I mean, even not being able to run camps and do all of the things that you normally excel at, and all the tools that you have to really inspire and engage young people, which is so important. And you do such a terrific job, which is one of the reasons why I'm always like over the moon every time you ask me to do anything with you, and happy to help. And look, it's hard. I mean, we're lucky in the sense that we have a terrific network of local staff throughout the world. We have more than 400 local staff, and you know, they are always leading and running their programs. And so my job is to really enable that work and that tremendous capacity and courage that exists. So during COVID, at least those aspects of our programs have continued, and many of those staff have become engaged in some of the frontline work around protecting communities from COVID. A lot of public health education. I already mentioned some of the ongoing distance-based learning stuff that we've been doing to make sure that kids don't fall behind. Child protection work, you know, that kind of thing. So, yeah. I mean, to really answer your question, look, it's tough. It's tough for charities. It's tough for nonprofits right now. We rely on public goodwill. We're hoping that people remember to think globally as well as locally, and to give globally as well as locally. But I've always believed that there's no distinction between what I love and what I'm passionate about and what I believe in, and you know, and I think sort of who I am as a person. So you know, for me, I'm always interested in this work. I'm always learning about these kinds of issues, and I'm not, you know, what makes me excited is to know that our programs have the resources that they need to be able to continue. And for me, that's the biggest reward of all. I'm not somebody who, anybody who even follows me on Instagram knows that I'm kind of quiet and shy on those sorts of fronts, because I'm kind of nerdy, and I would rather read a book than share an Instagram post, which maybe is a generational thing, I'm not sure. But I just think you have to be true to who you are, and if you don't do that, ultimately it leaves you with feeling, I think, very empty as a human being. And for me, having lived with war, having witnessed it, seen it firsthand, whatever I can do to help move the cause forward, that's what I'm going to do. So I don't know. I mean, the other stuff is it can be fun, it can be interesting, but unless you're really engaging people in meaningful ways, it can all feel, I think, ultimately very shallow and not really move the agenda forward. At least that's been my impression.
You know, I think that another great thing about you is you could sit and have dinner with a prime minister of some country and be able to do that. And you're also able to sit with me and share a cup of tea and have a conversation as if we're longtime friends. And I don't think it's any different between A and B. And I think that's a really an amazing thing. I think what makes you work, in my mind, what makes your message work. 30 seconds background on global for us, our global summit here, is my dream, and people question me all the time, like I want to have the world's largest accessible leadership event that if you have internet connection, which I know in some parts of the world is still not easy, but if you have an internet connection, you can actually still be part of an event like this. And so that's my dream of this. Where do you want to see War Child? Where do you want to see it in after the pandemic 5 years from now? Like my dream is I want 1 million people a year watching this event. And people like you and Michelle Obama call me and says, I want to be part of that. I want to tell a message. I want Greta Thunberg to say, I want to be part of that. I want to tell a message. I want to share those messages. So that's what I want to do. What do you want to do in terms of War Child? Like how do we move? Where does it go next for you?
Well, look, I think coming out of the pandemic, what we've seen is that there is a lot more violence and a lot more instability that is plaguing our planet. We right now work with 500,000 kids and their families every year. I would like within the next 10 years for us to be reaching 10 million kids a year. There are more than 60 million refugees throughout the world, millions more that have been displaced within their countries, tremendous human rights violations, and we know what works. We know that when kids have access to education, when their families have opportunities for employment, when we keep kids out of the militias, when we protect the rights of women and children, especially against sexual and gender-based violence, that they can rebuild their lives, rebuild their communities, and bring about an end to war. But it takes time. And, and that's what I would like to see. I would like to see a decade from now that we're working with more than 10 million children and their families every single year, and that we really are a critical, I think, thoughtful organization working in this space to bring about peace and a better global society. So yeah. I don't know, maybe that sounds naive. Maybe an end to war sounds naive, but I wouldn't get up every day and do what I do if I didn't on some level fundamentally believe that an end to war is possible, and it should be possible. It's an entirely human construct.
I don't think it's naive at all. I think that is an incredibly honorable mission to have, and I think it's something that we need to embrace, because I think I said off the top of our conference today, I said, in order for us to change the world, we need to make conversations more accessible to everybody. And which is why when someone says to me, Stu, you could have monetized, we have over 20,000 people that signed up for our event. And someone said, well, if you just charged them $10 each, you would have made over $200,000. And I'm like, that's not the point of this event, right? And that's not the point of what you're doing. The point of what you're doing is to literally make an impact on the planet Earth and people in it, living on it. And I think that's so incredible.
Well, thank you, Stu, and I have great admiration for everything that you do, and especially, being in your events, and I'm so sad that we can't do it in person, because being at your events, the energy is just incredible. The young people who participate are just, they are real rock stars. Like, they're real rock stars. Yeah. And I just always feel so honored and privileged to be in their company and to be learning from them and engaging with them. And so I really do hope, fingers crossed, that this time next year we'll be doing something in person, and hopefully your global vision for a global summit will become true, because I would love to get behind that in any way I can.
Well, two things to that. Number one, when we do it, you'll be part of it. And War Child is going to be, I have a lot of things, I got my brain's going here, Sam, and I want to do some stuff with War Child. I want to make this some sort of a way we can work together. But we do have 20,000 plus people watching this, educators, parents, and young people. So I don't want to leave this conversation without me leaving them with some sort of call to action or some sort of actionable thing they can do right now. I don't want this to be someone yelling, we could change the world, and like, yeah, we can, and like, what's on Netflix tonight? I want to know what actually can we tell these young people watching this, and the educators and the parents, what can they do right now to help you, to help War Child, to make a difference? And just in general, make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly donating to any organization, especially those that are working with the most vulnerable, whether it's here at home or around the world, would be a tremendous way to make an impact. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of money, even a small amount of money, but especially if it's a regular contribution, like a monthly contribution, it allows organizations to properly plan. And remember that some of the areas in which many of us are working, like education, it's going to take months and months and months to undo the legacy, especially of COVID, but also of conflict conflict. And so being invested for the longer term is a much more effective way of giving. But I would also just say, look, in light of everything that's happened in the last few months, and and Stu, you and I have talked about this as well. I think a lot of schools and educators and young people who maybe got behind different movements and are left feeling a little bit abandoned and cynical, I would just ask you, don't be cynical.
Yep.
There are a lot of great organizations out there that you can be a part of. Find ones that speak to you, that speak to your values, learn more about them, find out ways that you can get involved either by donating or sharing their information or supporting their cause or spreading their message, any of those things, or applying to be a summer student in their office or a volunteer in some capacity. There are great things that you can do, but have a long-term relationship, because that's when you're really going to affect change. And you don't need to be involved in busy work kind of philanthropy. When you actually are invested for the longer term, you really see the impact of your efforts. And so that's what I would say is try to just keep moving forward and recognize that as tough as it's been here, it's been a lot tougher for a lot of people everywhere. And hopefully there's something that you can do to make a real difference.
It certainly is something, if you think about it, allows you to have some perspective when you think about the other side of the world and what's going on, and it kind of puts you in like, wow, even though it's been a tough year for us, we're still really lucky and fortunate, and beyond fortunate actually, to live where we live and to do what we're able to do. So on our Instagram, we're going to have a post on there with War Child with you, and the Instagram for War Child Canada or War Child USA is what?
It's at War Child Can and at War Child USA.
Right, which Kara knows about. I just don't know things off. So Kara would have known that. I just don't know. So we're going to tag all that stuff, and we're going to ask everybody out there to go over to those Instagram and find out more about War Child and see if you and your school and your community can do something to help. If you have the ability to help, we want you to help. And Global is going to match anything that we do. We're going to figure out a way to match this. We're going to figure out a way to help. War Child, I'm going to embrace War Child. We're going to really help you, Sam, because you're always so grateful and wonderful to us. So, yeah, so thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, thank you. And I'm so glad that you are weathering this. I know it's been a really tough time for all of you as well. And I just think that, look, now is the time for all of you to lead. And, this is, as hard as this past year has been, this is also, we're heading into this period of time that's going to be, this is your moment. And I know that with the tools that you're providing young people and educators, that they will have those opportunities to seize on leadership and to really demonstrate what they're capable of. And I look forward to bearing witness to that. I think it's going to be amazing. It's been really hard, but I do think that going forward, it's made us all think a little differently about how we exist in this world and how we live our lives, and to think hopefully a bit more collectively about what we can do for others. Yeah. So I really can't wait to see what you all come up with.
It's been one of the more interesting analogies I've actually disliked over the course of COVID. Everyone's saying, well, we're all in the boat together. And like, no, we're not. We may all be in this COVID sea together, but some have leaky canoes and some have yachts. It's all very, very different. So thank you, Sam. And I can't wait to hang out with you again in person. And I look forward to our emails, and I look forward to sharing with you. And I really, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate you.
Well, I right back at you, Stu. The love is mutual, and I can't wait to see you in person too.
All right. Thanks, Sam.